This is not a drill, patriots. While you skip meals to keep the lights on, Washington's elites have been feasting off your tax dollars, lounging in empty buildings, dropping millions on luxury chairs, embassy artwork, and, ready for this, $230,000 picnic tables. That's right. But the gravy train just slammed into a wall of executive fury, and that wall is named Donald J. Trump. The federal government, you didn't know this, owns over 250,000 buildings, and many of them are completely vacant, costing you $10 billion every year to maintain. These are taxpayer-funded ghost towns where unelected bureaucrats sip lattes while American families drown in inflation. Trump has declared total war on this waste, axing 700 leases in months, the fastest reduction in federal bloat in U.S. history. And we have all the receipts in this report. Now, as President Trump attacks bureaucratic bloat, legendary action star Chuck Norris is teaching Americans to fight their own battle against physical decline. At 84, Chuck still has the strength and energy of someone decades younger. How? Well, he discovered 3 critical factors sabotaging our bodies as we age, the same way Trump identified waste sabotaging our government. Trump's simple method has him feeling like he's in his 50s. His wife feels 10 years younger, too. While Trump eliminates government access, you can eliminate what's holding your body back. See Chuck's age-defying secret at chuckdefense.com/next before this video gets removed. Now let's jump into it. Marjorie Taylor Greene, and she is on the offense. Yeah, did you hear about that DOGE committee? Yeah, you probably didn't, because the mainstream media is going to completely ignore that it ever happened. Well, wait till you see what we have lined up for you. Yes, while you struggle to buy groceries, the federal government is blowing billions on empty buildings, luxury chairs, $230,000 picnic tables. But Trump is slashing the waste and cutting the leases, and we have the receipts. Here's Marjorie Taylor Greene. The feds own over 250,000 buildings, and they're empty. While you suffer under inflation, they lounge in ghost towns with luxury furniture.
Welcome, everyone, to today's DOGE subcommittee hearing on federal real estate. This is an area where the Trump administration is taking long overdue action. The federal government owns a massive real estate portfolio of more than 250,000 buildings. No one knows how much of this real estate is actually being put to use or what it's worth on the open market. Here's what we do know. Taxpayers spend about $10 billion annually just to operate and maintain all of it. American taxpayers have been drowning in debt, inflation, unaffordable grocery prices, high interest rates, and have been suffering to get by. All while the federal government is pouring billions of dollars into wasteful, empty office buildings and luxurious high-end furniture, which they, the American taxpayers, can't even afford themselves.
Oh, yeah, but it doesn't stop there. Donald Trump canceled a $250 million lease for a luxury office on Penn Avenue, but Biden reinstated it. No broadcast equipment, $130 million more just to make it usable. Biden wanted taxpayers to foot the bill for elite comfort while you get crushed. Listen.
Office building. More specifically, they've canceled nearly 700 federal leases of 7.9 million square feet of space, saving taxpayers around $400 million. One of the canceled leases was a nearly $250 million 15-year lease at a luxury office building on Pennsylvania Avenue to house Voice of America and the United States Agency for Global Media. The Biden administration signed the lease late last year, sticking taxpayers with the tab. It's one of the fanciest office buildings in the city. You can see of the building on this poster board. Incredible. Furthermore, this beautiful building had 0 broadcasting capabilities, a capability one would think would be essential for a broadcasting media agency. The cost to taxpayers to build out the building with broadcasting capabilities, $130 million. The Biden team wanted to move USAGM and Voice of America from this building that we are sitting in today into that luxury space. More specifically,
but there's more. America faces a $36 trillion debt crisis. Trump's team is bringing common sense back, terminating unused leases, cutting waste, and shrinking the footprint. Why? Because we need a country left for your kids and your grandkids.
Space. We're here because this country faces an existential threat. $36 trillion in debt, $1.8 trillion annual deficit, and we're trying to find common sense solutions to address unused space and how we can be more efficient with taxpayer dollars in that regard. And this is really a whole of government approach. We have to right-size our fiscal ship in order to have a country long-term. So I guess this is just one small part of that endeavor. And it really is just common sense.
Common sense, finally. When was the last time you heard common sense in government? Never, right? While Trump cuts waste, some Democrats want to block federal relocations to protect the D.C. elite. Check this out.
Agencies and these relocations, as we saw during the first Trump administration, would harm the operations of these agencies and waste taxpayer dollars. They would also harm the economy of the National Capital Region and upend the lives of federal workers, many with kids who love their homes and schools. Last month, I introduced a bill to prohibit such relocations. However, there are specific federal buildings in D.C. that GSA should dispose of in an orderly manner and move the employees from those buildings into other buildings in D.C. These disposals would save the federal government money and could generate tax revenue for D.C., increase housing supply, and create new mixed-use neighborhoods in the District of Columbia. There is precedent for orderly disposals of federal property in D.C. Congress has passed many of my bipartisan bills to transfer unused or underutilized federal buildings and land in D.C.
Let's keep going. $1.4 million for embassy art, $120,000 for Ethan Allen chairs. This is your money.
$1,000. The State Department spent $1.4 million on artwork for various embassies, including $200,000 to procure a pair of custom paintings from a contemporary abstract artist. Do they need high-end leather recliners worth thousands of dollars each? Our embassy in Islamabad is a place where you can put your feet up, thanks to 40 Ethan Allen chairs, which cost taxpayers $120,000. The State Department spent $1.4.
Oh, my goodness. Here's one. Congressman cut $70,000 a year by moving out of overpriced offices.
Predecessor had two. And I'm going to tell you a story about my time in office. I got elected 7 years ago, and my predecessor had two offices. They were spread out in my district. I have a fairly small district, and they were in some of the highest costing office space in my district. And we only had 3 employees, and we had two offices, and they were, one was in Greenville, one was in Spartanburg, and I just said, well, that doesn't really make sense. So I went to a wonderful, municipality that is up and coming, and I got this fantastic office space. It's actually more square feet than I had between the two, but it is drastically nicer, and it costs less than half as much. So just in my one little congressional office, we're probably saving $60,000 to $70,000 a year. So that is just pretty straightforward, and we're going to basically do the same thing across the country. We're going to figure out what we need and what we don't need, and then we're going to dispose of what we don't need by either selling it or by not renewing the lease. So, Mr. Maroney, the Department of Government Efficiency has already terminated close to 700 federal leases.
Wow.
What financial impact has that created for taxpayers?
That once the leases are drawn out. There's about 90, 120 days, but there'll be this lease savings. You won't be paying that lease rent anymore.
And I'm going to tell you a story about
What is the total of the lease rent? How about that? In Cleveland, they're stripping federal buildings for parts, fewer services, and fewer jobs. Listen to this.
Services. What they are really doing is looting the federal government and stripping it for parts. This sale could result in reduced public access to services, lower job security for thousands of workers, and a ripple effect throughout Cleveland's downtown economy. Local businesses, public transit, and city revenues all depend on the federal footprint of this building. What they are really...
Yeah. Okay, obviously a Democrat there, complaining that we're cutting all the waste in government. Oh, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt all the people who work there. Yeah, but if they're empty buildings, what does it matter? Yeah. Here's another one. $6 billion a year blown on leased office space.
So it's about $6 billion on leased office space. So depending on how many you let expire, you get substantial savings.
$6
As I
billion
said up
a year.
here, people chastise the thought of making a profit. To me, that's not an evil thing. That allows for more people to be employed. It seems that we have forgotten exactly who we work for, and it's the people back home who are struggling. Now, when I was mayor of Knox County, one of the first things I did was I said, get me a list of all the property we own in Knox County. And it was amazing to me. I mean, we had property in neighborhoods. We had some of it was obviously undevelopable. So one was on the corner of a small airport. But it was all over. We had something listed as a park, and it was nothing further from a park. And we ended up selling a lot of this property, and we paid cash for schools, crazy things like that. We didn't stay in debt. And to me, that just seems like the model that the federal government should adopt. We should have a listing of the property, and the people ought to be able to review that and make better assumptions, because I think they're a lot more smarter than we give them credit for.
Let's keep going. Here is more from Marjorie Taylor Greene. Why won't they share space?
Resistance to sharing.
Just why won't these agencies co-locate and downsize?
So there's a number of reasons, but certainly cultural reticence to sharing space is something we've identified in the past. Also, inertia, for lack of a better word. It's a space you've already had, and there isn't as much incentive to move. It costs money to move out of space at times, and agencies haven't always put that up front. There's a number of other reasons possibly too, but certainly those are both valid reasons that they've brought up before.
Just
$230,000 for a picnic table at the CDC.
Over the course of egregious examples of wasted taxpayer money. And your findings over the course of your work, what was the most egregious expenditure that you saw? And at the same time, too, would love recommendations from you as to how best we can correct that.
It's a very target-rich environment. I think the totality is quite egregious, where you're looking at $1 billion spent on furniture. We talked about the picnic table as one, where the CDC told the American people they can't sit together, but yet they're spending $230,000 on a picnic table that violates their own standards. That rubs the American taxpayer the wrong way in every way imaginable. So I think what you could do is really reorganize federal agencies. Is that, it's the perfect political moment to cut spending is always a mirage over the next election horizon. But this body has the opportunity to do an agency reorganization bill that will solve all of the problems we're talking about, because it's a scope of government question. And to the question before is that we spend about $80 million a year on leases, and that's not as much as the owned property. That's a larger number. But there are incredible opportunities for savings that could be produced by having a smart, strategic agency reorganization.
Agency reorganization. Here's more from Marjorie Taylor Greene on those 700 leases.
700. Yet President Trump and DOGE ended almost 700 leases in just a few months. That's unbelievable. Has any other administration acted so quickly to reduce the federal footprint that you know of?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, that much needed though.
Not that I'm aware of. Yes, they're wasting your money. And Trump is the only one cutting the bloat. We expose billions in waste, and we're just getting started. Make sure you follow Next News Network to stay ahead of the swamp and fight back with facts, because the silent majority won't stay silent. Oh, and here's more. Elon Musk just posted this terrible. Senator Schumer refusing to criticize a tax on Tesla stores, employees and customers, but willingly criticize Musk for cutting government waste, fraud, and abuse. Unbelievable.
Senator, what's your opinion of the violence against Tesla, their products? What are your thoughts on that? Do you denounce the violence against Tesla products and dealerships and cars in the streets?
I can't talk about Tesla, but Elon Musk is a disaster for America, and America knows it. Look at Wisconsin.
Wow.
Thank you, Senator.
Yeah, he doesn't answer, waits for the elevator to open, basically a hit and run, and just takes a shot at Elon Musk. Typical. This is something we brought up yesterday. A witness confirms that families of politicians are financially benefiting from leasing buildings to the federal government.
This property. Mr. Hart, do any members of Congress, their spouses, or their immediate family have any property ownership rights to this property or any federal land?
Congressman, I don't know the answer to that question off the top of my head.
Okay, do spouses of members of Congress own real property and lease it to the federal government? And how would we find that out? Because I think I know what you're going to say.
I believe the answer to that question is yes.
You do?
I do believe that.
Is there any way we could verify that information?
Well, you go to USA Spending and search, you open the books, our website, and you can look up members' names, you can look up any person's name, and find that information.
All right. I suspect that's being done as I speak. How much would the federal government save by allowing unneeded leases to expire?
The federal government spends about $6 billion on leased office space, so depending on how many you let expire, you get substantial savings.
$6 billion. Here's Jordan Peterson. The NGO gravy train has ceased to operate. Talking with Pierce Morgan. Check this out.
And it wouldn't surprise me in the least if half the money that the American government spent, the Canadian government as well, the British government, governments as such, is like utter waste. And worse than that, like positively counterproductive. And it's certainly the case that Musk is the kind of managerial businessman who's very detail-oriented. He's an engineer. Engineers know how things work from the atoms upward. I have many engineers as friends, and I've watched them run companies. And the good ones know everything about how their enterprises operate, and they pay attention to every detail. And Musk is definitely one of those people. And we know that because he's done 5 impossible things at least. And then he bought Twitter and he cut its staff by 75% and made it work better, despite the fact that his advertising base collapsed. And he did that despite the fact as well that everyone thought it was a mad move, economically and practically. And so I think it's great that Musk and his team of brilliant young engineers are going through the budget line by line, trying to figure out where all the idiot money goes. And I think the left is appalled by that because they've set up an entire network of so-called non-governmental agencies, organizations, NGOs, that are essentially funded by taxpayer money that run their, quasi-criminal radical enterprises all around the world. And now the gravy train has ceased to operate. And so it's not surprising they're unhappy about that. But thank God for that, as far as I'm concerned, especially given the catastrophic levels of debt that the American government, Western governments everywhere are carrying. It wouldn't.
Straight facts right there from Jordan Peterson. What do we have this?
Do you think it's okay for the taxpayer to want to eliminate fraud, waste, and abuse in the government?
Is that okay?
Yeah, I think Kamala did the same thing, right?
No, watch the video.
And like any number of people who give a speech, they wave to the crowd.
Yeah, did you watch the video?
I did. I saw it.
Yeah, he heiled Hitler.
You think he's like a secret Nazi?
He's not a secret Nazi. This is not a secret. He's right there on stage behind the presidential podium, heiling Hitler.
I saw the compilations of dozens of Democrats doing the same thing. No, I'm not a Nazi. I believe in small government.
You're a Nazi.
You think the Nazis wanted to cut government down?
Go home, Nazi.
Can you explain to me, how did Nazis want to, why would Nazis want to cut down government like Elon Musk is doing right now? Do you think Nazis are libertarians and want to reduce the size of government?
Is that what we have happening?
Yeah, big time. I thought you were done talking to me. All right. Yeah, let's talk. That's not a Nazi salute, though.
What is it?
It's make-believe.
Yeah, make-believe. Here we have DOGE uncovering $5 trillion in untraceable payments.
No idea. $5 trillion in payments that are untraceable. The budget line is blank, and they're worried about your Bitcoin. 5 trillion, untraceable. No idea where it went and how it was spent. A $5 trillion blank check. Social Security sent out $72 billion in bad checks. Guess who resigned last night? The head of Social Security. Right when DOGE asked Michelle King to have a seat because she was about to get canned, she says, "You can't fire me because I quit." And the press is acting like this isn't suspicious.
You may assert there's no waste in the Pentagon. You may assert there's no waste in
Stephen,
Treasury.
I'm not
you may
asserting,
assert there's no waste in HHS.
That, Stephen, I don't think anyone...
Then why are you not celebrating these cuts? If you agree there is waste, if you agree there is abuse, if you agree there is corruption, why are you not celebrating the cuts, the reforms that are being instituted? Every day that no action is taken, the entire salaries of American workers that are taxed disappear forever.
Stephen, let's calm down.
This is
we're not having a debate.
There's no reason
about whether there are
well,
places...
you are clearly trying to debate me, and I will be as I want to be about the fact that we are saving Americans billions of dollars.
Yeah. So let's talk about that lease, right? What did Joe Biden do? He reinstated it, a $250 million lease for a luxury Penn Avenue office with no broadcast capabilities, requiring $130 million more just to make it usable. Comfort for the elite and pain for the people. Meanwhile, Representative Tim Burchett dropping bombs from the Hill, politicians' families profiting by leasing real estate to the feds. And he said people need to start going to prison. Even as America chokes on $36 trillion in debt, the D.C. swamp is defending these deals like they do, like their lives depend on it. Because they do. So here is what I'm asking you tonight. Should Trump continue this aggressive cancellation of federal leases? Or should he go even further and start investigating which politicians are personally profiting from the government bloat? Who should be the first to go to prison? Drop a comment. And drain the swamp yourself with our Next News gear. You'll find it at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com, linked below.